This video is brought to you by Ren. Contribute to help fight climate change. Animaniacs, the world is an awful place right now in a lot of ways, and only one of those various ways is the rampant onset of climate change. A planet-wide issue that affects temperature, storms, food production, water availability, ground stability, basically every aspect of living on this, planet. The causes of which are so insurmountable that they can seem hopeless, but as we work on bigger solutions, technical and legal, you might still want to help out in any small way you can. Ren is a company that for a month's subscription you can contribute to a variety of carbon reduction projects that help offset your carbon footprint. Mineral weathering, forest protection, and planting trees, as trees are still currently the best method of absorbing CO2. You can go to the website to calculate your carbon footprint because even if it's a drop in the ocean and no one can ever get to zero, see it as a personal challenge to see how little power and resources you truly need, especially in the future should both become very limited. And every month you'll get updates to see what progress your money has contributed to. So to help offset your carbon footprint on Ren, sign up via the link in the description, and for the first 100 people who sign up, you'll have 10 extra trees planted in your name. The major talking points around Chip and Dale is mostly how it's yet another corporate crossover Easter egg factory and how much that bothers people versus how much they enjoyed it anyway, if only on a surface level. Which is certainly a talking point. Personally, I'm still kind of baffled why people are so easily impressed by these types of crossovers in the internet age, when fans can and have been making much more interesting quality, if not perfectly legal crossovers for years. But this incarnation gets points because our corporate overlords approved of it. We need to work on this, as a people. Also, it's been weird how in so many reviews, some people have needed to state that this isn't as good as Roger Rabbit. I don't think that crossed anybody's mind, ever. From the get-go, I don't really understand why everyone keeps comparing everything to Roger Rabbit just because it's a crossover. That's not the most significant part of that movie in my mind. Though given that, technically Chip and Dale is the most similar for being a world where humans and toons cohabitate and is a mystery, but I still don't think that anyone thought at all that those two would remotely be in the same ballpark. But honestly, my primal emotional reaction wasn't to compare this to every single other reference movie, but how depressingly impressed and almost giddy I was to see this movie do the bare minimum of basics that made it easily better than most of the other live animation hybrid nostalgia bait movies in the past decade. If only on just a premise level, this movie is way more interesting, by making a way to make the background references at least feel more narratively relevant, by feeling like they're actually part of the world than just the crowd at a fictional basketball game. I mean, the idea of Dale getting the CGI upgrade while Chip still being 2D for the entire film, I love that as an idea. I just wish he was, actually 2D animated as opposed to a CG cel-shaded model. But I am glad that he didn't end up getting the upgrade at the end, which I was convinced was gonna happen. And this is probably more about how other projects and overall attitudes towards animation have felt so disregarding lately, that the fact that this movie had any 2D animation and characters of various styles, that this movie at least felt like it was respecting animation as a medium more than a lot of the others. Not just with the one-off cameos, but utilizing past real trends of animation into its story. Revealing the Valley to be the Uncanny Valley did get a laugh out of me. Even though they milked him too much, I am glad that there is some official appearance of what they call Ugly Sonic, which I reject because I thought we all agreed that the official term would be Jellicle Sonic. And then, of course, the entire crime organization of what they call bootlegs, which does make some sense in context, but real bootlegs are just pirated versions of real movies. I think the word you're looking for is mockbusters. Even as I can see that the animation quality is not particularly noteworthy outside of the premise. And I don't believe for a second that this is a budget issue. It is almost always a management problem and how much they give a shit. But in fairness, you can tell from my own videos, it's not like I'm an incredibly detail-oriented person. I respect premise a lot more than technical execution. Though, when you're an established billion-dollar company, I guess it's not too much to expect a little bit more. But if anyone tries to come at this movie with, well, at least Space Jam 2's animation was better, ha ha ha, I don't care. Even if it is cheap, low-hanging fruit, I will give a pardon to any movie that makes fun of motion capture and calls out Polar Express specifically. But if there was one incredibly basic thing that the Chip 'n Dale movie does that makes it better than all of the other nostalgic hybrids, it lets Chip and Dale be the stars of the Chip 'n Dale movie. I am still shocked how that very basic thing has been so frickin' hard to give screen time to the title characters selling the goddamn movie instead of whatever celebrity wanted to buy a private island for that weekend. Even Sonic, who has technically been one of the better of these, and even if you gave a pass to Jim Carrey, still has to share way too much of his screen time with James Marsden. Alongside of my anticipation of this movie and its potential, my first impression was still exasperation at yet more blatant celebrity voice casting. Not because I don't like Mulaney or Sandberg, not liking the celebrities casted is almost never the reason why I'm opposed to it, but maybe just having heard both of them in prominent roles relatively recently, and because Chip and Dale as classic characters, their high-pitched voices have always been parts of their character, this did feel like two major big names co-opting these famous characters. You guys are professional comedians. Can you please do something with your voices that makes it sound like you're at work and not table reading at a Denny's or something? Considering how many other meta jokes they make about this genre, I'm just surprised they didn't take the opportunity to make the voice thing its own joke. I mean, would we have taken this gritty, often disturbing interpretation if they had kept their squeaky voices? Well, we'll never know now will we? Would like to see an edit of this movie where the squeaky voices remained intact. Oh my god, somebody make that. Another common point of criticism that I mildly agree with, that while I was really glad that Chip and Dale were primarily the stars of the Chip and Dale movie, wonder if this movie as presented even needed to be a Chip and Dale movie. Most of the callbacks to the series are so surface level, and the story is overall such a familiar ex-buddy detective story that you could have technically exchanged Chip and Dale with multiple other nostalgic duos or even a completely fabricated IP. And ultimately not really changed much. After all, the big part of the appeal is just a broad variety of cameos and a tuned live hybrid world. And you still could have made a lot of the same jokes. Sure, you probably wouldn't get the same nostalgic endorphin seeing all of the Easter eggs, but then again, if you didn't need to worry about the use of IPs, maybe the movie could have gone even harder into a parody of this genre. Like, you know what they could have done to the bootleg storyline to be an even deeper cut? If the people doing it weren't disregarded ex-child stars, but, you know, the actual corporations, who have actually been the biggest abusers of the copyright system. But this is, of course, pure speculation, and even if Chip and Dale don't feel too alike their classic characters, they aren't too dissimilar either. Chip is still the serious one, Dale is still the spontaneous, goofy one, and the Rescue Rangers was a detective show. And it shows enough love to the old show, even though the whole gadget zipper thing was maybe a few steps more than people really wanted. But apparently in Disney World, interspecies offspring is just totally fine, you know, just as long as you don't have two boys holding hands or show a tampon box. But more importantly, the two are a really great duo together, and in the inevitable reconciliation, it even managed to get me a little emotional for a second. In a nutshell, I did actually have fun with this, and I did laugh frequently. But as expressed, a lot of my praise came from the pretty simple level of congrats on being better than Smurfs, Tom and Jerry, and Space Jam 2! Way to step over the crack in that sidewalk! But ultimately, nothing in this movie was as satisfying as finally getting to see the Bob's Burgers movie, which Animaniacs will know I have been waiting for so long and has been pushed back at least 4 times. And I'm very happy with it. Like a lot of series movies, it is basically just an elongated episode with more fluid animation and slightly higher stakes. I feel like people will instinctively want to compare this to the Simpsons movie and exclaim how that one feels way more epic and grand in scale, and that is correct. But Bob's Burgers is perfectly fine at the level that it is, and I just like Bob's Burgers characters more, and Louise is basically the main character, and that's all I really care about. Anyway, what did you think of these movies, Animaniacs, and what are you looking forward to for the rest of the year?